Story 1. I worked the graveyard shift at a local shipping warehouse. Most of my job involves counting inventory, ensuring all shipments and items are accounted for and tracked throughout the entire organizing process. Occasionally, I'll have a co-worker on the same shift, but usually it's just me. This night started like any other. I arrived at the warehouse, checked in with my manager, who then locked up and left me to it. I began my typical routine, checking the shipments that came. During the day, about an hour into my shift, I passed by a door I noticed was cracked open, closed but not latched, sticking out slightly. This specific door was at the back of the building, usually where truckers enter. I opened it and looked out, seeing only an empty, quiet lot behind the warehouse. Nothing noteworthy. I figured my manager must have forgotten to lock it. I didn't have keys for these side access doors, so I couldn't lock it myself. Honestly, it didn't seem like a big deal, at least, not to me. I shut it and went back to counting inventory. I was working quickly, making good progress through the next aisle of shelves when, from the corner of my eye, something seemed to move at the far end of the hallway. I immediately looked up, but nothing was there. What I glimpsed peripherally looked like someone running across the hallway opening back there. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks, but it still made my heart race. I shook my head, rubbed my eyes, and debated checking it out. Initially, I decided not to. It would slow down my workflow, and I was 99% sure it was nothing. These peripheral vision things happen and always turn out to be nothing. But as minutes passed, I couldn't shake the feeling it could have been someone. Sighing, disappointed in my unease, I walked down to the end of the hallway. This section wasn't part of my job. It held large pallets prepped for shipping. Most lights were off. I stood in the hallway, peering into the large, dark room for seconds, waiting for movement. Nothing. I left and returned to my spot. Maybe because of that incident, a sudden wave of exhaustion hit me. I was suddenly tired, my pace slowing. I wanted to finish the aisle before my break, so I kept working. Not even 5 minutes later, I noticed something again in my peripheral vision. My eyes snapped toward the hallway end. I swear it looked like a figure leaning out from behind the corner, watching me, but again, nothing. This time, I immediately dropped what I was doing and hurried back down the hallway. It was dark. I saw nothing. I called out, not expecting a reply, but hoping, "Hello." I waited, then walked further into the room. It was dead quiet. Every step echoed loudly. I stopped halfway through, looking around. An intensely disturbing feeling of being watched washed over me. Not seeing anything made it worse. I hurried back to the hallway, glancing back once more. The darkness there gave me chills. I started to walk away when a sudden, extremely loud metallic thud rang through the warehouse like metal banging against shelving. Silence followed, filled only by faint echoes. Then another, quieter thud, ... A repeated tapping on the metal shelf. It felt like a lure, an attempt to draw me back into the dark. Knowing it was a person now, completely horrified, I ran. I bolted out the back door into the parking lot. From a safe distance, I called for help. Surprisingly, when police arrived, they found a man hiding behind a large shelf in that dark room, a disheveled, creepy-looking man in his 40s. Creepier still. Security footage showed him walking around the building's exterior multiple times. The past week, checking doors for unlocked ones. All those nights I was alone inside, sometimes just on the other side of the door from him. From the brief glimpse I got as they dragged him out, he seemed unhinged. I don't know what he intended, but the thought of him trying to lure me back still makes me deeply uneasy. Story 2. During college, I worked part-time overnight shifts at my parents' 24/7 laundromat at dinky place on the edge of town. The building always felt surprisingly creepy for what it was. Something about its age and the constant machine humming was unsettling. Still, working for my parents beat anywhere else. This was a Friday, my only full overnight shift. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., my dad handed over, leaving snacks in the back room and the usual instruction to call him if needed. A few customers trickled in over the next hour, so I stayed behind the counter, ensuring things ran smoothly. By midnight, everyone was gone, all machines empty. I waited behind the counter another 15 minutes on my phone before starting cleaning tasks. During that time, a customer walked in. I looked up, confused. He carried no clothes or laundry, wore a thick hoodie with the hood up, hands in pockets. I said hello, but he ignored me, didn't even glance my way. He just walked in, slowly moved through the aisles of washers and dryers, looking around, then walked back out the entrance. I watched him leave the park. Story 2. During college, I worked part-time overnight shifts at my parents' 24/7 laundromat at dinky place on the edge of town. The building always felt surprisingly creepy for what it was. Something about its age and the constant machine humming was unsettling. Still, working for my parents beat anywhere else. This was a Friday, my only full overnight shift. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., my dad handed over, leaving snacks in the back room and the usual instruction to call him if needed. A few customers trickled in over the next hour, so I stayed behind the counter, ensuring things ran smoothly. By midnight, everyone was gone, all machines empty. I waited behind the counter another 15 minutes on my phone before starting cleaning tasks. During that time, a customer walked in. I looked up, confused. He carried no clothes or laundry, wore a thick hoodie with the hood up, hands in pockets. I said hello, but he ignored me, didn't even glance my way. He just walked in, slowly moved through the aisles of washers and dryers, looking around, then walked back out the entrance. I watched him leave the parking lot. He didn't get into a car, just crossed the street and vanished. It's weird for someone to walk into a laundromat late at night for no reason and just wander. He didn't technically do anything wrong, but it felt really off, especially being alone. I'd have felt safer with other customers, might not have noticed. With nothing to do, I started cleaning. The only reason I could think of was maybe he lost an item and was looking for E to stretch, since asking me would make sense, but he didn't. That's all I thought about for the next 20 minutes as I tidied counters and the place. At some point, I happened to look up. Standing right outside the entrance was that same guy. I almost didn't register a person behind the glass. All black, dark outside. By the time I recognized him and realized, he was already walking away. How long had he been standing there watching me? After a moment, I went to the door, pressed close to look down the street, but he was gone, vanished. His appearance and eerie behavior were deeply creepy and unsettling. I thought about calling my dad, but felt horrible waking him over someone merely suspicious, especially being new and wanting to prove reliable. I stayed vigilant for the next hour, sitting behind the counter, staring out the front windows. As more time passed with no customers, I slowly paid less attention, scrolling on my phone. Then, A couple of short creaking sounds came from the building's back. I got up, walked a few steps toward the back, listening. I heard shuffling, like someone moving things in a back room. After only seconds of listening, I knew someone was back there. I needed to leave. I turned, quietly moved to the front door to call the cops and push out, but the door was stuck. Looking down through the glass, I saw something wrapped around the outside handles. I immediately realized that's what the man was doing when I saw him by the door earlier. Panic flooded me. There was only one. Story 3. For a few years, I worked as a data entry clerk at a private compania. Typical low-tier job without much respect. Managers kept piling on extra tasks beyond my role, but being young and in my first real job, I went along with it. Our office occupied the 5th top floor of a large suburban office building near the city. Other businesses rented the lower floors, all service-based, so they emptied out by 5 or 6 p.m. daily. Our company was the only one with occasional late workers, as the lowest paid employee. I often stayed late to handle overflow work cheaper for them, and the extra pay helped me. This night, my boss dumped a stack of tasks on me, assuming I'd stay without asking. I agreed, partly because I preferred working alone without micromanagement. By 6 p.m., everyone left, and I stayed behind. After 30 minutes, the main lights switched off, leaving only dim power-saving bulbs. I worked at a steady pace. 3 hours later, focused on my screen, I heard a muffled, echoey sound below, like a door shutting. I paused, listened, but hearing nothing else, brushed it off. As building noises, another 30 to 45 minutes passed. I'd nearly finished my work, just an hour left, but felt my eyes drooping. I got up to brew coffee at the Keurig near the entrance. Walking back to my desk, I noticed the back hallway door was open. This door led to a utility closet, and the stairwell down to other floors always kept shut. Curious, I peered into the hallway. Both the closet and stairwell doors were closed. A chill ran through my knees, but I blamed the dim lighting. I checked the stairwell door quickly, then returned to the main room, shutting the hallway door behind me. Back at my desk, I tried to focus, but every few minutes, a crushing feeling of being watched made me glance up. Nothing. This dragged on for 30 minutes, slowing me down. Then, abruptly, all lights cut out. Only my computer screen glowed in the pitch black. I stood to rush toward the light switches, but froze. In the silence, slow footsteps crept toward me from that direction, just beyond the screen's glow. Adrenaline hit. I bolted for the stairwell door, raced down to the first floor, and burst outside. I called 911. Police arrived in 15 minutes, searched the building, but found no one. Security footage, blurry, outdated, showed a man entering at 2 p.m., claiming an appointment with another company. He'd hidden in a utility closet until everyone left except me. His movements afterward were unclear, but he'd been there with me for hours. They never identified him. I quit soon after, not knowing his intentions, whether to scare me or something. Worsened, knowing he was still out there. I couldn't risk being alone in that building again.